I think I died 17 years ago, specifically on 9/11/2001. No, not in the hell that was the terrorist attacks, but from something not entirely unrelated. See, I was born in Gander, Newfoundland. Yes, that Gander from the play, even though people call the town heroes or whatever. As a child at the time, 9/11 wasn't about terrorist attacks. It was about extended summer. Gander allowed thousands and thousands of people whose flights were canceled to stay in our town. Our schools were closed to house people, our homes were open to take people in. Our churches and community center were packed with rows and rows of beds. Our small town of 10,000 more than doubled overnight. But me, I was turning 9. My birthday was 9/10, so when school was closed the next day, it felt like God himself gave me a birthday present. At that point, we were given summer again, and there was only one thing to do: gather up my friends and go play. Now, when I was young, we would always play at the old town site, an abandoned military town that sat next to the airport, right next to the runway. It was from there that the town sprang up. For us, it was a vast expanse of woods to run around in, safe because of the heightened airport security and the turkey farm. It wasn't actually a turkey farm, but rather a military base of the top-secret variety. Occasionally, we found a ruined building to explore. It was in one of those buildings that I think I died. In Gander, there's one ghost story everyone knows. If you see a white rabbit out of season at the old town site, don't turn around. The story goes, when the old town was still inhabited, a woman was murdered. The reason changes with each telling. She was dismembered, eyes carved out, and her body was dumped in the town well. The next day, the well was surrounded by snow-white rabbits, even though it was out of season. So if you see a snow-white rabbit out of season, she's right behind you. While we were playing manhunt, I decided to hide in one of the buildings, Flynn's house. This one had an underground cellar, which was perfect for hiding. Time passed, and then a snow-white rabbit hopped down into the crawl space and stopped directly in front of me. My heart rate skyrocketed, and I felt eyes burning into me from behind. I knew she was right behind me. Slowly, I crawled out, exited the house, and started walking home. The creeping feeling of dread was overwhelming. At some point, I had to look behind, and I regret it. She was there, staring directly at me. So, I ran all the way home and locked myself in my room. It wasn't until recently that I realized all the weirdness that followed. My friends never came looking for me, and when we next spoke, they were distant. I was living on autopilot. I was never hungry or tired. Last week, I tried not eating and felt no hunger. I also tried staying awakey, and I'm still awakey. Now, I'm not sure if I'm alive or dead. I exist, I work, but I can't connect to anyone. Worst of all, since that day 17 years ago, I have never looked over my shoulder. I can't. I know she's still there. Someone lives in my house. With the nagging of my fiancé, I've decided to post this story here. It's probably one of the scariest things that has happened to me during my 40 years on this planet. I live with my fiancé and my younger brother, who works in law enforcement. This will be semi-relevant to the story. We reside in a smallish town outside Las Vegas. We don't have much crime for being close to Vegas, but we do have some. We have no shortage of tweakers and a growing population of homeless folks. Last summer, I was in between jobs and spent a good deal of time at the public library or my father's business office using the free Wi-Fi to browse jobs. It was around 4 in the afternoon when I returned home. We have a dog named Suki. She's a bull terrier cattle dog mix. She's wary of strangers and is quite protective, making her the perfect watchdog. Anyway, it's always scorching, almost as if I live in Satan's butthole, and I was sweating profusely. So I ran a tepid bath, turned on Spotify, grabbed a magazine, and locked myself in the bathroom. Suki was outside the bathroom door whining because she dislikes water but enjoys dropping her toys in it. Mid-bath, I heard Suki going berserk. Then I heard her run upstairs and someone exclaim, "Oh crap." I froze. I was completely exposed without any weapons. My brother's lockbox with his Glock was upstairs, and Suki was presumably dealing with an intruder. Quickly grabbing my phone, I heard the intruder yelling at Suki, and I'm sure she was defending our home. I dialed 911 and shouted that I was going to call the cops. This prompted the intruder to curse, likely struggling with Suki. Somehow he escaped through the back door with Suki hot on his trail. As I spoke with the dispatcher, I hastily dressed and raced upstairs. Upon returning, Suki strutted around, clearly proud. I secured her in my brother's bedroom just as the cops arrived, not wanting her to possibly bite them. My neighbor, having heard the commotion, managed to apprehend the intruder. The man was scrawny and covered in dog bites and telltale meth scars. He had found our fake rock with a key inside and had let himself in. The officers cautioned against using such a decoy again, a sentiment I heartily agreed with. That evening, Suki enjoyed a well-deserved steak while I was left on edge for weeks, fearing a repeat break-in. We've since secured 2 guns, one upstairs and one downstairs. As I now sit at my computer, my heart races. I'm terrified that every moment could be my last. My friend, the reason for my current dread, is with me. It may sound confusing, but let me explain. Earlier today, he rushed into my home, visibly shaken. He's been living with his aunt for a year since his parents were in Mexico, on a mission at a southern hospital. Last night, a distraught man entered the hospital, ranting about La Muerto Blanco, or the White Death. This entity, he claimed, was a vengeful spirit of a girl who had taken her own life. She now roams, eliminating all traces of her existence and anyone who knows of her. The man's description was chilling. She knocks on the victim's door, each knock representing something she'd take from them. The man believed this entity had claimed his sister's life. Despite trying to warn others, no one took him seriously. That very night, my friend's parents, who had interacted with this man, were found dead. His aunt, after hearing the story, met the same fate. And now, after recounting this tale to me, we both heard knocking on my door. We've sat here for an hour, dreading what's next. I wish I had never met him. And now, dear reader, I'm sorry. Because now that you know about the White Death, she might just be coming for you next.